Hi guys, this is Dr. Cummings from Point Loma Nazarene University. This is the first video in a 5-part series describing the biochemistry of photosynthesis. For a little perspective, this is being developed for first-year biology, chemistry, and environmental science majors. What we're going to do in this first video is think big picture, really big picture, okay? Let me get this out of the way here. What I want you to do first is pause this. Read the question carefully and talk it through with a buddy. If you have questions, you can't figure it out, go ahead and bring those to class with you. If you're in my class, bring it to me, and we can talk through this. If you're taking a course or brushing up on this with somebody else, find another professor that you're able to talk this example through. But basically what you've got in this story is meat, food for a wolf, that has been labeled with a tracker, carbon-14, so that the organic matter, the carbon that makes up the organic matter in the food for the wolf, can be tracked. And then somehow, 6 months later, those tracers, the carbon-14 labels, have been found in a living moose as part of his tissue. How did that happen? What are the steps that would be required to be able to make that happen? Go ahead and pause this, think that through. I'm going to continue talking about photosynthesis here. Now, we've got an observation we need to start with. The green parts of plants, think of leaves on a tree, for example, but there are other things, other parts of plants that can be green. Algae can do this trick. Even photosynthetic bacteria, what we call cyanobacteria, can do this trick. We know that the green parts of these organisms can evolve oxygen into the atmosphere as a waste product of something, and they can create their own biomass. They're not heterotrophically feeding on organic matter that's in the soil. They're building all their biomass from CO2 with water. How do they do that? That's really what we want to address. We want to try to discover how green plants, and of course other photosynthetic organisms, produce organic matter and oxygen. Oxygen's a waste product to them. To us, it's kind of important, from simply carbon dioxide and water. And what we're going to do is we're going to zoom in on the chloroplast. Now, you should have learned a little bit about how the chloroplast is structured. We're going to review some of that in an upcoming video. And then we're going to talk about the compartmentalization of very specific reactions that allow the chloroplast within the plant cell to take up the CO2 and water and magically convert it to oxygen and organic matter, right? We're going to shine a light into this chloroplast and see exactly what's going on in there. From an energetic perspective, it's really helpful to see that the reaction for photosynthesis is precisely the reverse of the reaction for cellular respiration. So in photosynthesis, we're taking carbon dioxide, inorganic carbon from the atmosphere, combining it with water, and generating C6H12O6. That should sound familiar. That's glucose. And oxygen as a waste product, right? If you've learned cell respiration already, then you know that the reverse of this reaction is glucose and oxygen being broken down into CO2 and water. So it should make sense then that the energetics will be precisely opposite one another, right? So whereas cell respiration released energy, and to be honest, it released precisely 686 kcals per mole of glucose. All you had to do is put a negative sign here to indicate that it's being released, about 40% of which is captured and rearranged, if you will, into ATP that the cell can use in cell respiration. In photosynthesis, we've got CO2 and water being combined into glucose with oxygen as a waste product. And so it's a positive delta G of the same magnitude, a positive delta G, indicating that energy needs to be put into the reaction to force it against the powers of entropy, right? Entropy wants these things to break down, not to build up. In order to push back against entropy and actually build things, we've got to introduce energy into the system. And in the case of photosynthesis, that energy comes from light. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at the biochemistry of this line right here. This arrow is a set of really complex reactions, and we're going to look at the biochemistry of those reactions specifically within the chloroplast. If you need to go brush up on your chloroplast, you can do that. I'm going to remind you of some of the basics of it in the upcoming video. So I hope you'll join me on the second video. Thanks, guys.